Hey there, adventurers. This is Alec from Fishing and Adventure Tales. And today we're going to be taking a break from a lot of our outdoor adventures, such as fishing, hiking, the Amazon, Alaska, all of that stuff. We're going to talk about digital photography and how to really get some of those great outdoor shots and landscape shots that just make being outdoors absolutely amazing. Really focusing on aperture setting. This is my go-to camera. It's a Leica D-Lux 7. Okay, it's lightweight, digital, fully digital. And I'm going to turn it on. We have the back of the camera and we have the on-off button here. We're going to go through all of these components shortly. So let me turn this on. All right, so now it's on, and you can see this is a wide angle to telephoto lens. It goes from 25 meters all the way out to 75 millimeters. So it's a really nice broad lens. Okay, it's a really nice lens for taking all kinds of shots. I typically prefer wide angle, so most of my shots are in the very wide angle range. So as I was saying, we're going to talk about aperture. But aperture, let's go into that, why it's important for outdoor and adventure photography. Aperture is one of the three pillars of photography, the other two being ISO and shutter speed. The shutter speed here is just really the speed that the shutter opens and closes and allows light into the camera that's either captured by film if you're using a film camera or by the digital reader obviously with a digital camera. And ISO is film speed, but we're not going to go into those technicals. I really want to talk about aperture and how to get those amazing depth of field photos. And I'm going to give you some examples from recent trips that I've had this camera with me. So what does aperture do? Aperture, you can see the aperture ring right here on the camera. I could be adjusting the aperture. So the lower the number, let's say we take it all the way to 1.7, that number will result in a less depth of field and sharpness, but allow you to capture more light, because that, even though it's a small number, it's opening it up and allowing more light in, less depth of field. It's a little counterintuitive almost. If we turn this aperture all the ways to the high number here, and on this camera it goes up to 16, okay, what that's going to do, that's going to result in incredible depth of field and sharpness up to a certain point, but you really will see things in the foreground and things in the background in great detail and sharpness. That results in a lot less light coming in, but a larger depth of field. So on this camera, on the Leica D-Lux 7 and on most digital cameras, you can control your aperture, okay, or you can keep it on an automatic aperture. Automatic aperture would be pushing this all the ways to the A, and the camera will then decide on the aperture. But for outdoor and adventure photography, I like choosing my own aperture and based on the depth of field that I want, and I let the camera control the ISO speed and the shutter speed. Although there's a couple of times where I want to control both the aperture and the shutter speed, and that's examples mostly with waterfalls where I want that liquid flowing feeling of waterfalls. So let's see how it works. To adjust the aperture, you simply just have to turn the aperture ring, as we said, and that the lower the number allows more light in, less depth of field. The higher the number, that allows less light in, more depth of field. And on the back of the camera, you can see here that it will tell you what your aperture is and what the shutter speed is based on the light that the camera is receiving. So we're going to talk about the different aperture settings and film speed, not really talking about the ISO because the digital camera is choosing that automatically. If you're using film camera, you have a set ISO based on the 35 millimeter film, but we're not going to get into that. The most important thing is when you're shooting with a high quality digital camera such as this Leica D-Lux 7, it's important to experiment with different apertures and observe the changes in your photos. You'll notice how each setting opens up new possibilities of depth of field as well as motion, particularly if you have a very a high shutter speed, you're going to freeze motion, whether that's water falling or some other action shot. A higher depth of field, you're going to get more of a fluid flow if it's a motion shot. So it opens up new opportunities to express your artistry for artistic expression. But remember, aperture is just one of the pieces of the digital photo puzzle, the other being the film speed, ISO, and the shutter speed, which is the shutter speed is here on this button here. But keeping it on A, that allows the computer in the camera to program the shutter speed based on the aperture. Now, when I took these photos of the waterfall and I wanted this fluid effect that you can see, what I wound up doing is I was changing the shutter speed down to 1/15 of a second, even down to 1/8 of a second, and then controlling the aperture and thereby controlling 2 of the 3 and allowing the computer to control the ISO. And that enabled me to get these beautiful fluid shots of the waterfalls up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where I just came back from. For everyday outdoor photography, I prefer just using the aperture setting on my own. I like wide angle and I like a lot of depth of field. But I've been lately experimenting with less depth of field, which is again that very low aperture setting for a very limited depth of field. So thanks for joining today. I hope this video helps you understand how to take control of your outdoor photography using any high-end digital camera, Canon, Nikon, Leica, like I have here, the Leica D-Lux 7. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share your own photos, and happy outdoor shooting.